So the packet is a little messed up for these pages. You guys actually have the title at the top. It should say Assignment 16, Polynomial Long Division. But no matter what, you're on page 21. So it says, without a calculator, what is the result when 3,164 is divided by 7? So we're going to be working on doing long division with polynomials, which involve, the polynomial functions you've been using throughout this unit. So we're just going to remind ourselves of how to divide with regular numbers. So the first thing I do is I take this number, 7, and I say, how many times does it first go into 3? And if it doesn't go into 3, which it doesn't, I look at 31. And I would continue on if it didn't fit into a 2-digit number and so on. So 7 goes into 31 4 times. So I'm saying, how many times does 7 go into the 31? And then I multiply 7 times 4, and I write that answer below the 31. So that's 28, and then I subtract. 31 minus 28 is 3, and I bring down the next number, which is 6. So now I go back to what I did in the beginning. I say, how many times does 7 now go into 36? And 7 goes into 36 5 times. Then I take this 7 and I multiply it by 5, and I write that below the 36. I subtract, and I bring down the next number, which is a 4. So now I'm back to how many times does 7 go into 14, and that's twice. And then I do 7 times the 2 now, and I write that down below, which is 14. And we see that 7 goes evenly into 3,164, the answer being 452. So when we work with polynomials, it basically works the same way. So I'm going to try to use the same colors and the same structure to just kind of show how they are the same. So for the first one, I would definitely watch. So here I'm dividing 4x cubed plus 4x squared plus 13x plus 6 by 2x plus 1. So just like I put the 7 on the outside, what I'm dividing by goes on the outside. That's the divisor. So now we basically take our first term of our binomial, or whatever, it could be a trinomial, and most of the time it's a binomial though, and I say, how many times does that 2x go into my first term? So for now, the plus 1 is not really doing anything. Now, you could do this in your head, but if you have trouble figuring it out, I'm basically saying, what is 4x cubed divided by 2x? Just like up here, I was saying, what is 31 divided by 7? So here, this would be 2. 3 minus 1 is 2, so that's going to be 2x squared. So just like I wrote a 4 up here, I'm going to write a 2x squared up here. So 2x goes into 4x cubed, 2x squared times. Now we take the whole binomial and we're going to multiply it by this 2x squared. So that's the little bit different piece. Now we're taking the whole thing. So that's going to involve the distributive property. And just like usual, we're going to write that below down here. So 2x times 2x squared, and this one should always match, is 4x cubed. And now I'm going to distribute 2x squared times 1 is 2x squared. Now we are subtracting both of these. So this is going to mesh with delta math. It's a little different than the way I've done it in previous years, but basically since we're going to distribute that negative right now, so we're going to make this positive and change the sign on both of these. Now the first part should always cancel. So 4x cubed minus 4x cubed, or plus a negative 4x cubed, goes away. Here I have 4x squared minus 2x squared is 2x squared. Just like our regular long division, we're going to bring down, now it's the next term, not the next number. And then we repeat. So we go back to our 2x. Remember, we don't ever work with that one, it's just that first term. How many times does 2x go into 2x squared? So if I need to, I can write that on the side. 2x squared divided by 2x is going to be a 1x, or just x. I'm going to write 1x for now just because I think that makes it a little easier. So it's positive 1x. We actually can get negatives here, which never happens with regular long division. So it's positive 1x. So now I'm onto my multiplication step. I'm taking the whole thing and multiplying by the 1x and writing it down below. So that's 2x squared plus 1 times 1x is 1x. And then I'm going to subtract. So we'll distribute our negative. So make this a positive and change the signs on both of these. 2x squared minus 2x squared cancels. 13x minus 1x is 12x. And then we bring down the 6. Okay, so it looks like we have one more step, right, because we're down to a 2x and a 12x. So I say, how many times does my 2x go into my 12x now? And that would be 6 times. If I want to write it on the side, I could. 12x divided by 2x is 6x, okay? And not 6x, sorry, just 6, right, because those x's cancel. So now I'm going to write up here, plus 6, it's positive again. This one I kept simple with all positives. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit so we can see this better. So now I'm on to my multiplication step. I take my whole binomial and multiply it by 6. That's going to give me 12x plus 6. Subtract. So we're going to make this positive, negative, change the sign. And actually here, both parts cancel because 6 minus 6 is 0. So my answer up here, and if you were on Delta Math, you would type in 2x squared plus 1x or x plus 6 as your final answer. Now, normally I would tell you to pause the video and try the next one. If you think you're ready for that, that's great. If you don't, you could watch me do the next one. So I'm just going to scroll down a little bit. What is the result when x cubed plus x squared minus 10x minus 16 is divided by x plus 2? So I'm going to write the problem out. Okay, and I see that now we're going to say how many times does 1x go into 1x cubed. So if I wanted to divide those out, that would give me x squared, because 3 minus 1 is 2. So I would write my x squared up here. Now I'm going to take the whole thing. So I'm actually just going to put it in parentheses now and multiply. We'll distribute. So that gives me x cubed plus 2x squared here. So from there, we're going to subtract both of those terms. So we're going to change those signs, make it positive, negative, and negative. And this problem, we're actually going to get into those negatives, which makes things a little trickier. So this cancels x cubed minus x cubed. 1x squared minus 2x squared is a negative 1x squared down here. And then we're going to bring down the next term, which is, just to keep my colors consistent, go back to red here, negative 10x. So now for the first time, we actually have to put a negative sign back up at the top. So now I'm saying how many times does, and I'll write a 1 here if that helps you, 1x go into negative 1x squared. We could write our division on the side. Negative 1x squared divided by 1x is going to be negative 1x. So once again, negative x is fine, but I'm going to write negative 1x to help with the multiplying. Then we're going to take our binomial and multiply it by the negative 1x. So x times negative x, or 1x times negative 1x, is negative 1x squared. 2 times negative 1x is negative 2x. And we are going to subtract. So this time when I subtract, I'm going to make an addition and change both of my signs. So here it cancels again, negative 1x plus negative 1x squared plus 1x squared cancels, as usual. And negative 10x plus 2x is going to give me negative 8x, right? Because the negative 10 is bigger. We bring down our negative 16. Now I have x, 1x, going into negative 8x. So negative 8x divided by 1x is going to be negative 8. So I bring up my answer up here is going to be negative 8. And then I take my binomial and I multiply by the negative 8. So that's going to give me 1 times negative 8 is negative 8x down here. Positive 2 times negative 8 is negative 16. We're going to subtract. Let's extend that page down a little bit. And this is going to cancel, right? Actually, we should change the signs first. So this cancels, this also cancels. We have a remainder of 0, which means that this is my final answer. Now, I put a note here because this is a really common mistake that people make. Basically, people forgetting to subtract both terms. So this process of changing to a plus and then changing both of these signs is super important because once you do that, you can just follow the signs and add. So from there, this last one, I would like you to pause the video and try. Yours is on the next page, so on page 22. I'm going to do it pretty quickly, this problem pretty quickly. Once you come back to check, if you need it slower, I would go back to the previous two. So as I said, that's on the next page, but my packet that I printed out on Smart Notebook is a little messed up. So here I'm saying how many times does 4x minus 3 go into 8x cubed minus 10x squared minus x plus 3. So 4x goes into 8x cubed 2x squared times, and then I'm going to multiply, so that gives me 8x cubed minus 6x squared down here. Distributing my negative sign, that's going to give me positive, negative, and then this is going to change to a positive. So as always, these first two cancel out. Negative 10 plus 6 is negative 4x squared. So now I'm back over to my 4x. 4x goes into negative 4x squared, and I forgot to bring down my negative x. So 4x goes into negative 4x squared, negative 1x times. And then I'm going to go back to my multiplying. So 4x times negative 1x is negative 4x squared, and negative 3 times negative 1x is positive 3x. Then I'm going to subtract. I'm going to distribute my negative sign, change that to a negative. These first two parts are opposites as always, and they cancel. Negative 1 minus 3x is negative 4x down here, and then lastly we'll bring down the positive 3. So back to my 4x, going into my negative 4x, so that's negative 1 time. Multiply by negative 1, that would work. Multiply it out. We're going to get negative 4x. Negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. And then we subtract and change our signs. And this one again, and we set these all up in the beginning, completely cancels. So my final answer is going to be 2x squared minus 1x minus